My loves, today is going to be a Q&A episode. We're talking about long-term care for a loved one and my boundaries, if I have any. And does God have a plan? Let's go. Okay, this is a question from, I'm just going to say from FT, because I don't know if she wants her name shared. So here's her question. A lifetime of caring for my mom, 14 years full-time. Please help me figure out how to deal when you are still in it. Thank you. First of all, I want to offer so much compassion and respect for your commitment. Can't be easy. I'm sure there's lots of joy and reward, and I know you're burning some karma, but you have choices. Even if you feel like you don't have choices, and this feels like an obligation, you are being intentional about caring for your mom. You could be awful, unethical, and immoral, and you could walk away, but you're not. You're there. So let me give you some kind of meta answers, which probably won't be helpful at all. And then maybe some really practical, just kind of girlfriend to girlfriend. Can you find the beauty in what you're doing? I was just recently watching a Ram Dass documentary. He talked a lot about finding the beauty in his own personal stroke, which was quite debilitating. Took him a while to get his words back in order. And I think he spent the rest of his life in a wheelchair. And, here's a dude who did a lot of psychedelics and extensive meditation, and I think came in with a gift, but with lots of love and humility. He really stood in that teaching. This is what life has given you. Can you find the beauty in that? Because that will ease your suffering. You could relish in the knowing that this service is a burning of karma, and it could be a creating of positive karma. Who's to say? Only your soul knows. But maybe you're cleaning up some unfinished business, and that will only make things easier for you in this lifetime or the next. The love gets registered in the field everywhere, all the time, eternally. Maybe this is creating positive karma for you. And the boon, B-O-O-N, the gift of that will be felt now or in the future by you and your loved ones. And then let's just take a hard right turn to the really practical. Do you have to be caring for your mom full-time? Is there money in the bank that you could access that's hers, that's yours, where you could get some support? Do you need to do this solo? Is there a sibling or a relative that is either willing if they just were asked, or that just needs a sober, good talking to because this isn't solely your responsibility? I don't know. I would be in a tough spot if one of my parents needed full-time care. I'm an only child. Is there any blocks that you have to look at around abundance and prosperity? Things that you could let into your life that could help make your life more easeful and healing and nourishing just for you, for your body, for your mental health, for your nervous system, that would make it easier for you to carry your mom in the way that you are? And or are there resources, whether it's some kind of funding or grant or a relative who's got the coin who can come in and support the situation? Do you have to carry it all on your own? Now, if the practical, legit answer to that is yes, if you're in a situation where there isn't funding from any other sources or siblings or relatives and it's you, then you really got to work with the metaphysics and have this be the spiritual work of your lifetime, that you are not alone, that you are being supported with life force and prana and mental health and good friends and fresh air and the love that is coursing through your system to your mother on a daily basis. But can you get her a babysitter once in a while? Could you take her to do some fun things? Could you get a night off so that you can go dancing? I'm concerned about your nervous system. I want to ask you questions like, are things that used to be fun no longer fun? Are you isolating in ways that you don't need to? Are there friends you could call? Are there Saturdays that you could get away to? Are there plays that you want to be seeing? Because sometimes the weight of caring for other people and big responsibilities creates this kind of dullness in our own nervous systems, and we get out of touch with the stuff that formerly brought us joy, that could still bring us joy. And you have to love yourself enough to want to be well enough and alive and vibrant enough to do the work to remember what brought you joy and then to move back towards it. And then finally in the mix, I would say prayer. I mean, if you're in my ecosystem, I'm going to guess that you see yourself as being on a spiritual path. But maybe this is the calling to really double down on your explicit devotional practice, having what I would call naked, prayerful conversations with God, where, how I always put this is, I used to have a prayer relationship where I thought if I was grateful enough and good enough and high vibe enough and being a great planetary citizen, then I could go to God in earnest and ask for God to answer my prayers, to make good on all of my desires. And that was really just coming from a place of woundedness. I had this image of a punitive God in the sky, and that I had to work to earn my keep on the planet. And if I wasn't working, not only was I not going to get my prayers fulfilled, I was going to be punished. It was like, double whammy. And then I just came to the revelation. I don't even know if it's a conclusion, but the revelation that I am the beloved in the relationship with God. It's a two-way street, but that I don't need to suit up and show up for God. God sees it all anyway. God wants it all anyway. Call it what you will. I mostly just refer to my soul. I think God is so big and vast, my human mind can't even conceive. So it's easier for me to wrap my arms around the concept of a higher self. So I ask my higher self in earnestness and honesty to support me, to do what I can do to have my wishes and desires fulfilled, and to guide my prayers. I pray to pray for the right thing. But back to you, FT. Maybe this is an opportunity, you caring for your mom, to deepen your prayer practice and get back to what I was saying at the beginning of our conversation. Find the beauty every day. Switching gears, somebody asked me, what are your boundaries? Well, let's talk about boundaries. I'm into them, but I'm not always into them. I am really concerned that the shadow side of boundaries is you divide the world up into what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And that is exactly the kind of divisiveness that ruins relationships, dysregulates your nervous system, and creates heart attacks, if you ask me. And I think boundaries are essential. They're part of being a whole person. They are a necessity to self-love and self-respect. I think you got to have them. I spent most of my 20s not having boundaries, and then my 30s getting really clear and expressing my boundaries. And now I just don't have boundaries. I think you get really clear on your boundaries. And then you realize that you are big and you are spacious and you are loving and you have time for people's shit because you're wise, because you're doing the work, because you know everybody else is a bozo on the bus and in pain. And you are so blessed that you have the capacity to be conscious enough to see that everybody else is doing their work. And so you're going to give them a break. So do you need the boundaries? No. That's how I feel about boundaries. But more specifically, what are my boundaries? Well, somebody asked me the other day, I was at an entrepreneur's kind of jam session dinner at this really great space in Vancouver called The Conscious Lab. You can find them on Instagram or online, and it is a beautiful space to rent in this pretty edgy part of Vancouver. It's one of the oldest buildings in town, and they just host high vibe events. You could be doing your yoga class there. You could be doing your business retreat. They can do small weddings. Okay, that was my plug for my friend Jenna, who owns the Conscious Lab. Where was I? So I'm at an event there, and somebody in this kind of ice-breaking game, which, I never liked those things. The theme of the night I went to was play, and I didn't want to go. I'm like, fuck, are you kidding me? The theme's play. I don't want to go. I was just like, it's still every once in a while, the introverted personality construct gets in my way. And then, we danced, and I love to dance. And I was like, oh, humans are amazing. Everybody's so beautiful. I love play. I'm so playful. And that's the irony, is I'm actually a totes playful person. Well, maybe totes is pushing it, but the question was, what would be your deal breaker behavior in a leader? And my answer was lying. It's so not cool for me. I'm baffled when people lie. Like, who lies? Like, I get, your ass looks great in those jeans, but actually lying, though. So, that's a boundary for me. But then again, I have this porousness around it. Like, if somebody told me a bold-faced lie, is that the term, bold-faced? Bold. Anyway, if somebody told me a big porky, that's a British saying for lying. I love it. She said a big porky. I would potentially have space to recover with them from that lie. Like, wow, you lied. That's amazing and weird. Where did that come from? Why did you do that? What part of your wounded self makes you think you need to lie to have your needs met? And then I decide. Yeah. Other boundaries. I got some weird physical space boundaries. I have some germ things. Like, if you come to my house and you use my hand towel, as soon as you leave, like you're barely out the door, I refresh the hand towel. Like, my husband, still awesome and strange to call him husband because it's so new. He's got some weird food stuff. Like, when we first met, he's okay if I tell you this. He wouldn't eat fruit from the farmer's market that hadn't been washed, where I'm just like, oh my God, check out these nectarines, these peaches, and these blueberries. And they're like gone before we walk home. And he's just like, it hasn't been washed. I'm like, who cares? Like, this is not. And I'm just like, you got some weirdnesses, babe. And he's like, hand towels? I'm like, yeah. So I don't know if that's a boundary or if that's a neuroses. I think a lot of boundaries are neurotic. So there you have it. Next question. We'll say that this is from E. I don't know. I feel weird revealing people's names. First names that are kind of common. I'm down with it. But okay, from E. What do you do around angry, negative people who focus on you and won't leave you alone? You leave the room. You get some boundaries, girlfriend. Okay, there's a couple layers. I always have a couple layers. You leave. Yoga Sutras of Patanjali teaches that you always want to be choosing a higher vibration thought, right? If a negative thought crosses your mind, you choose a positive thought. I mean, this is really core to what I'm creating, the Heart Center Leadership Program, which is how to choose nourishing thoughts. And you have to acknowledge that sometimes you're in an atmosphere that is so challenging or toxic that it becomes more difficult to do the healing, to choose a more positive thought, to eat better, to speak more kindly to yourself. Therefore, you have to remove yourself from the toxic atmosphere. So there's that. If it's not fun, leave. If it's not fun, make it fun. Secondly, you could approach it as your spiritual practice. Is this really your soul giving you an assignment for embodying acceptance, the virtue of acceptance with a capital A? I mean, the lessons come in all forms, usually in human relationships. Thirdly, I got to ask you, E, how angry are you? What's your vibe? Are you more of an Eeyore type, complaining, who do you cling to? Are you seeking a lot of external validation? Do you have some repressed rage? And maybe it's all of those things. Maybe it's none of those things, but it is a universal consideration that every person, every situation is a reflection of our inner state. And when we get conscious of that, it doesn't make things easier, but it makes things more navigable, easier to accept. So I'll give you a totally out there extreme example. I live in an apartment. The ocean is my front yard. It's incredible. I live in Vancouver. And there is a particular dude. So in the summer, it's like being in Mardi Gras. The sun comes out. Everybody in Vancouver comes out. We're also happy to see the sun after 9 months. And there's one particular dude. We've named him Mike. And Mike screams, hollers, yells at the top of his lungs the most profane, vulgar, violent, heartbreaking things. And I got to ask myself, first, it's upsetting. It's not so much annoying as it is disturbing, right? And then I think, well, he's in my field. He's in this theater of my little life with this backdrop and the ocean. And I think, what character in me is he playing? Is this some reflection of something I need to work out? Like, that's how extreme I take the reflection theory. If I'm aggravated or annoyed with anybody before I really formulate my extremely wise judgment, because, I'm probably right, I check myself and say, how is this something that I have going on in myself? And the answer is sometimes I don't have that going on in myself. I certainly don't have that violence and hostility that Mike has going on. But I have to have the seed frequency of that. I definitely have some rage in me. I have unresolved anger. I have anger on a regular basis. You know how I feel about customer service in 2024. It's dead. So, E, I'm going to ask you the question. What do you do when you're around angry, negative people who focus on you and won't leave you alone? Can you meet them with the opposite of anger and annoyance? I bet you can, because you asked the question. Okay, this is a big question. This is from my man. I was getting questions through my Instagram stories for a Q&A episode. And I said, babe, you got a question for me? And he said, does God have a plan? I was like, oh God, could you have asked me something about my hair regime or something like that? Does God have a plan? Well, I'm a mother. I am the God of my child on some degree, right? And my way of loving him, definitely in baby days, was to have a plan. That was my responsibility, to intuit, organize around his expressed and potential needs. That was love. That was godliness. And then he had his own plan. He's my creation. And my plan didn't always go according to plan. But my act of love was to hold him with as much certainty as possible. And that helps him know that he is supported and that all of his needs will be met. That, by the way, I'm just going to go off on a side tangent here. That is why I never, ever let my baby boy cry it out. I have some pretty strong feelings about the Ferber method, which was designed by, I think, a psychotic male, maybe psychologist, psychotherapist, who taught women to go against their divine innate power to violate the wisdom of every cell in their body and their heart, and let their babies cry in their cribs, not touch them, let them cry to a point where if they were so upset, they vomited in the crib. This is actually a chapter in the Ferber method teachings, that if your child is so hysterical because they're crying and they vomit, you just go in and you move them away from the vomit. You check on their safety, but you still let them cry themselves to sleep. I think this method, this way, whether people know about Ferbering or not, creates a host of problems for individuals and humanity. I think it's at the root of so much anxiety and unprocessed rage and neuroses. Okay, so that was my digression, my progression around, does God have a plan? Let me bring it back. Let me bring it back, my loves. So as a mom, as the creator of this little bean, Bean, I had a plan. And then I move into a collaborative, a co-creative relationship with my creation, with my son. And he is an extension of my DNA and my wisdom and my love, and then we make it up together. So the God of all, the God of our understanding, the intelligence in universal intelligence that is beyond capacity for the human mind, not to be mistaken for the human brain, but the human mind to fully comprehend. Does that God have a plan? I don't know. I can't comprehend it, but I would be amazed if she didn't. And then my man asked me, what are you tired of? Well, I'll tell you what I'm tired of. I love this question because it's such a portal for healing for all of us. I get tired of selling. In one respect, I gave up selling about a decade ago. I decided to not try to convert or convince anybody that they needed what I had, because I had to contort my message. I had to be someone I wasn't. I had to step out of my authenticity to speak a different language, have a different marketing hook, have my brand be appealing to a bigger group of people. Forget it. It's draining. And I want to live a life based on resonance. You know, you and I vibe. We want to lean in. We're curious. We feel at ease. Our bodies relax with each other. We feel more like our truer selves with each other. That's resonance. I want that life. I want that life I have that life with my friends, with everybody on my team, with people in the Heart Center membership, you know, with quote clients. I consider the people who are in our business accelerator group, our inner circle group, you know, I consider them to be clients and friends, and it's a resonant community. Anyway, so I retired from, you know, straight up sales. And come on, listen, I'm selling all the time. I mean, I get on social media because Instagram, et cetera, is one of my vehicles to inviting people into what I offer from love, with love, on behalf of love. I don't take out newspaper ads because that's so 1980 late. I have social media. I have an email list. And I love to communicate, and I'm a great marketer. I don't speak to pain points. I speak to longing. I don't say I have the only solution for $4.99. I say, I get it. I've been there. I've got something for you. And I stand by it with my whole spirit. But I get tired of doing that. I get tired of dealing with, I'm going to swear, I get tired of dealing with the fucking algorithm. I have a love-loathe relationship with the manipulation, the censorship, with the game that is Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. And yet, it's this, you know, oh God, it's just a tool. It's a technology I have to use on behalf of goodwill and helping millions of people create conditions of healing in their life. But you can see I'm not too happy about it. So I get tired of that bullshit. I get tired of people saying, when they could say, you're welcome. But you know what I don't get tired of? I don't get tired of teaching. I don't get tired of talking about forgiveness. I don't get tired of sitting here with my phone. I record the whole podcast on my phone, on a little microphone. I'm sitting in my apartment right now. I don't get tired of people coming to me with their problems. I feel honored. I don't get tired of hearing stories about stuckness or anxiety. Oh my God, I don't get tired of hearing about the dark night of the soul. I don't get tired of jam sessions and innovating and thinking through how we can make it bigger, brighter, better, more magnetic, more effectual, more loving. I don't get tired of the questions. And I don't get tired of trying to come up with answers. So thank you for being here for this Q&A session. If there's been anything useful, please make sure that you are actually subscribing, not just passing through, to listen to episodes. And if anything is of value, press forward, leave a review, or just send me a little prayer of thank you. It all counts in the morphogenic field. I will be here next week, maybe with some answers, or maybe I'll just have a lot of questions for you. Always with love, Danielle. Thank you so much for listening, for feeling, for spreading the word. With love.